One hit changed the whole story. Sophie Cunningham got tossed from the game, hit with a fine, and slammed by critics. All after one wild foul while stepping up to protect Caitlin Clark. And that single moment, it's still the talk of the season.
Take down that first arm, and you look at Sophie Cunningham and Bonner. Yeah, I mean, that's...
But here's the twist. Instead of ending her career, this moment blew it up. Millions hit play on the clip. Followers poured in by the hundreds of thousands. Big brands started knocking. And weirdly, every fine she got just made fans love her more. So did the WNBA accidentally create its next breakout star? Today, we're diving into the controversial foul, the viral storm that followed, the fines that kept piling up, and how one crazy night turned into a million-dollar moment. The foul that broke the internet. It all started as just another game on the road. Indiana rolled past Connecticut 88-71 at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on June 17, 2025.
Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever survived the drama to beat Connecticut 88-77 to advance to the Commissioner's Cup championship game.
Now here's a game that would barely crack a highlight reel on its own merit. But somewhere in the middle of it, the referees missed a call, and that missed call would end up shaping an entire season for one Indiana role player. What happened next mattered way more than anything on the scoreboard. Sophie Cunningham already had a reputation walking into this. She's the kind of veteran presence teams bring in for exactly this kind of moment. After several seasons in Phoenix, she signed with Indiana that offseason, stepping into a role bigger than her stat line. A physical, vocal protector standing next to a franchise player who'd taken more hits than any rookie in league history the season before. Nobody in the Fever organization was shocked when she finally stepped fully into that role. The only real question was how soon it would happen. Then in the third quarter, it happened. A shoving match broke out, and Sheldon poked Caitlin Clark right in the eye.
This escalated, so that was called a flagrant. Those two were technicals. Charles got a technical, and then Mabry for what we thought should have been 2 technicals and ejection.
0 technical fouls. 0 flagrants. Nothing at all. Then things got worse. Connecticut's Marina Mabry shoved Clark hard to the ground. Somehow, it was Clark and Sun veteran Tina Charles who ended up with technical fouls. Sheldon's foul later got bumped up to a flagrant, but Mabry, the player who actually knocked Clark down, walked away with 0 punishment. No ejection. Nothing. So was the league really about to let that slide? Sophie Cunningham didn't think so. With less than a minute left and the game already decided, she saw her shot. Sheldon drove to the basket, and Cunningham wrapped her up around the neck and pulled her straight to the floor. Both benches emptied in seconds. A full-blown scrum broke out. When the whistles finally settled things down, Cunningham was handed a flagrant 2 and sent to the locker room.
Here's we got another breakers here as J.C. Sheldon goes right after Sophie Cunningham.
Both Sheldon and her teammate Lindsay Allen were tossed from the game too. The league looked at the play afterward and hit Cunningham with a $400 fine. On the surface, that seemed like nothing. Just a routine punishment that gets buried in a transaction report and forgotten by morning. League officials usually treat these calls as pure procedure, a box to tick after any ejection. Nobody expected this particular fine to turn into a story at all. And honestly, nobody in that league office had any idea what was coming next. Cunningham herself didn't act like anything controversial had even happened. She posted a playful photo to her Instagram story right after the game, leaning straight into the chaos instead of running from it. Fans noticed immediately. That willingness to own the moment ended up mattering just as much as the foul itself. Now here's a question worth asking. Was this really the first time Cunningham and Sheldon had banged into each other that season? Not even close. Earlier in the year, the two had already collided hard enough to chip one of Cunningham's teeth. That detail alone gave the whole thing extra texture once the June ejection went viral. It didn't make the retaliation more or less justified, but it gave fans the perfect storyline. A rivalry that had been simmering for months, finally boiling over on national television. Even the broadcasters covering the game live seemed caught off guard. In real time, the commentary focused almost entirely on whether Cunningham had gone too far, with instant debate over whether her response actually matched what happened to Clark 2 quarters earlier. That live debate only threw more fuel on a story that was already spreading way beyond the arena before the final buzzer even sounded. So here's the real question. Could one single retaliation foul actually shift the direction of an entire career? Within 24 hours, The clip of Cunningham dragging Sheldon to the ground had exploded across the internet. Her social numbers were climbing in real time, right in front of everyone's eyes. She picked up more than 500,000 new followers across TikTok and Instagram in a single day, a growth number most athletes never see across their entire careers, let alone one night. Her TikTok alone tells the story better than words can. Before the incident, she sat around 300,000 followers. Within weeks, she'd blown past 1 million. One of the most respected outlets in sports business crunched the numbers and reported that this single moment had added roughly $1 million to her personal value in just 3 days. That's a number that makes her $400 fine look almost laughable by comparison. How often does one defensive play generate that kind of financial windfall for a bench player? Basically never. And that rarity is exactly why this story spread so far past the usual basketball crowd. Writers who had never covered a single WNBA game suddenly found themselves writing about a role player averaging modest numbers off the bench, purely because the math around her sudden fame was too wild to ignore. Analysts started using her as a textbook example of something economists now call proximity value. The financial boost an athlete gets simply by standing next to the sport's biggest star at exactly the right second. But why does the internet fall this hard for a protector so fast? Something about this moment hit different for casual fans too. Cunningham wasn't chasing a highlight or padding a stat line. She was defending her teammate against a league that, in the eyes of millions of new fans, had failed to protect its biggest star all season long. Within days, the internet gave her a nickname that stuck for good, the Enforcer. Brands moved just as fast as fans did. Cunningham signed a partnership with Ring almost immediately. She was tapped to be a ring girl for a major UFC card, timing that felt almost too perfect to be random. Her existing deals with Quest Nutrition and Adidas suddenly had way more eyeballs on them overnight, and she landed a recurring analyst spot on Phoenix Suns broadcasts, stacking a media career right on top of her basketball one. How rare is it for a seventh-year role player to suddenly become the most talked-about name in her sport? Historically, almost unheard of. Most athletes build a brand slowly, over years of steady production and careful public appearances. Cunningham compressed that entire process into a single week, and people who study athlete marketability struggled to find anything comparable in recent league history. Everyone assumed this attention would fade the way viral sports clips usually do, a shelf life measured in days, not months. What nobody accounted for was that Cunningham had zero intention of going quiet once the algorithm moved on. If anything, the spotlight made her louder. Around the Fever organization, teammates and coaches noticed the shift almost instantly. She'd always been valued internally, but overnight, the outside perception flipped. She went from dependable veteran to legitimate drawing card. Opposing coaching staffs started game planning specifically around the physical, vocal presence she brought to the floor. Did the league really think a few $100s in fines would change who Sophie Cunningham was? On July 18th, she posted a TikTok lip-syncing lyrics aimed straight at the league's officiating. The league fined her $500 for it. If the goal was making her more careful, it backfired instantly. The clip spread faster than the fine did, and fans who'd never watched a full WNBA broadcast were suddenly debating officiating standards because of a 15-second video. Every fine was starting to work less like punishment and more like free promotion, dragging her name back into headlines right as the last news cycle faded. 10 days later, she launched her own podcast and used it exactly the way you'd expect by now. She called out the officiating directly, joking that if she were a ref, she'd mess up constantly too. But when the same simple call gets missed over and over, right in front of your face, what exactly are you doing? The league fined her again. This time it was $1,500 for comments made on her own show. She found out the ugly way, pulled aside by the team's general manager, and told the league had reached out. Instead of backing off, she addressed the pattern head-on in that same episode, basically saying, "Fine me $500, I'll get fined again, and it'll just keep going." Was she bluffing? August answered that question fast. A third fine landed, amount undisclosed, this time after she commented on officiating in a matchup involving Paige Buchers. She summed up her whole season for reporters in one line, officially 3 for 3 on getting fined, and she still wasn't sure what she'd even said wrong. By most accounts, she was laughing the entire time, completely unbothered by a pattern that would have rattled almost anyone else in their first real taste of national attention. How many players get more popular every single time the league tries to discipline them? Almost none. But that's exactly what was happening here, and both the league office and her growing fan base seemed to sense it at the same time. Her podcast downloads climbed with every new fine. Sponsors paid attention. What should have been a deterrent turned into something closer to a built-in marketing calendar. 3 separate news cycles, perfectly spaced across one summer. Then came the injury. Cunningham tore her MCL and missed the rest of the 2025 season, finishing with 30 games played, averaging 6 points and 3.5 rebounds a night while shooting a strong 46.9% from the field. Her team went on to win the league's Commissioner's Cup that same season, adding another $30,000 to her total earnings for the year. Could an injury actually slow down a business trajectory moving this fast? Barely. Her podcast kept growing. Her broadcast work kept rolling. Brands kept lining up whether she was on the court or not. If anything, the extra downtime gave her more room to build exactly the kind of media presence that was already outpacing her playing salary. Then, in November 2025, came the deal that changed everything. Cunningham signed with a brand new professional women's basketball league set to tour internationally starting in 2026. Her contract, $2 million, reportedly including an actual equity stake in the league itself, not just a playing salary. That's the kind of structure normally reserved for genuine superstars, and it went to a player who, 1 year earlier, was fighting for minutes on a rebuilding roster. Set that next to her original $400 fine, and the math almost stops making sense. Across 7 full professional seasons, her total career salary added up to roughly $637,000. This one new contract alone was worth more than 3 times that entire career total, signed in a single afternoon on the strength of a brand the league's own fines had unintentionally built. The momentum kept rolling into 2026, a contributor role on national WNBA coverage, a feature in a major swimsuit issue, opportunities that almost never land on a bench player averaging under 10 points a game. By the time analysts started estimating her net worth, the figure landed somewhere between $2 and $3 million, built almost entirely on endorsements, media work, and one equity deal that traces straight back to a single foul in Indianapolis. So what was the league actually trying to accomplish with 3 fines in one season? Presumably, a quieter, more careful player. Instead, it got the exact opposite every single time. Every fine created headlines. Every headline created new followers, new brand interest, and fresh proof that raw authenticity beats almost anything a marketing department could script from scratch. Does a league ever really win when its own punishment becomes a player's origin story? Hard to argue it did here. Every dollar she paid in fines was a rounding error next to the value those same controversies created for her. The league wanted silence. What it built instead was one of the most recognizable personalities in the sport, a podcast host, a broadcaster, and now an equity partner in a rival league. Fans watching it all unfold seemed to understand the joke before anyone else did. Fine her again, and watch her get richer again. That's the sports world we're living in now. Authenticity travels faster than any press release, and audiences reward the athletes who refuse to filter what they actually think, fines or no fines. This story is a real blueprint for how fast things can shift for any athlete willing to just speak honestly. So here's the real question to leave you with. Did the league accidentally create one of the most bankable personalities in the sport, all on its own? Drop your take in the comments. And if this kind of story keeps you hooked, stick around. There's a lot more where this came from.